right, here we are. We're going to do a little interview with these four fantastic artists up here with me. We've got from Pittsburgh, OCTEEL. We've got from Mexico City, Jenny Cherry. The Princess of Pastels, I like to call her. And from Georgia, we've got Mr. WONDERGOBLIN himself, James Sizemore. And the hometown boy, Chance Priest. So what I'd like to do is just ask these guys a few questions, then we can open it up to a few questions from the audience. Chance, you do everything in-house. The making of the toys, the pouring, the comics. You've obviously got a lot of talent, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into that. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody does their own thing. Everybody does it the way they do it. I have ideas that come to me that get into my brain, and I can't get them out of my brain, and I have to make that. And I don't have time to plan a toy line. I don't have time to have somebody else make it. So I might start in the morning with an idea, and it has to come out of my head. So whether I paint it, I draw it, or I sculpt it, I go directly into that. You know, I don't waste any time. I don't care what I'm supposed to do that day. I go straight to do that. And usually I sculpt a figure in a day or two, and then I'll go to molding, I'll go to casting right after the figure's done, and get it painted immediately so I have it out. And I usually cast about 4 to start with. Then I will the very next day I'll probably do like a painting or something like that of it, and I get real fixated on doing it, and I have to. I could care less if people like it or it's going to sell well or any of that stuff. This thing has to come out of me, and then I go and I write a backstory on it, and I give it all its lineage, its history, its lore, and all that stuff like that. And I'm just not satisfied till I get all that done. And if I had to send it off to be made or send it out to be painted or whatever, it doesn't work for me. I couldn't do this, you know. So yeah, so that's why it's a real personal thing to me. It's not a product. And it's more than art. You know, I tell people when they buy one of my toys, you got a little sliver of my soul in there, you know, because it came off on that figure. That's what I put into it, you know.
Well, it's always fun to visit your factory, and I really appreciate you inviting me out, and it's a sight to see. James, you've made vinyl toy paint more accessible to North America. You've got some other things in the works, which I won't spoil. I'll let you talk about that if you want. But and you've got a great YouTube channel. If you guys don't follow what I call Mr. Goblin's Neighborhood on YouTube, it is fantastic. It's a perfect blend of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and just the incredible, like the Mr. Bob Ross. It is fantastic. He's sharing his process of painting, of sculpting, of drawing, all the way through, and it's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. James, talk to us a little bit about your 10-year anniversary and what you've got going on.
Yeah, we just celebrated the 10 years of making toys, which was fun. And let's see, the vinyl paint thing, you know, that just kind of happened out of necessity, I guess, because, you know, I didn't really like what was on the market, and it was really hard to get the paints in from Japan, like most people were doing, you know, smuggling them in on planes and stuff. So yeah, I just kind of got to work, kind of doing a little DIY thing at first, and did that for a few years, and then met a chemist, and he helped me make the paint. And we came up with our own formula, and it's the first and only vinyl paint made for soft vinyl toys in the U.S. So I'm happy about that. It's cool.
And you've got some for sale at the booth.
Yeah, I've got some paint for sale at the booth, so if you're into airbrushing toys and you want to experiment with something that the toys will really appreciate, you know, try them out. Because if you've never painted vinyl with vinyl paint, you're missing out. Because I always tell people I like to do what feels right, what feels natural. Like vinyl toys, they want to be painted in vinyl paint. You know, they chemically bond. You know, you got to do all this other crazy work to get like acrylics and other things you can do it. You know, but you got to put a lot of extra work because the vinyl will eventually try to separate. So it's kind of like I like to think it's like trying to put a Halloween costume on a dog. You know, they'll wear it, but they'll try to shake it off as soon as they can. So. But yeah, that's my puppet for the show, the Wonder Goblin show. Me and my friends, Clarence and the Wonderbot. Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Yeah,
I got a little out of order here, so I'm going to back up to Jenny Cherry here. And Jenny, you pretty much own the color pink, and I mean that says it all right there, right? What more do we need to say about that? But your use of color is inspiring. Talk to us about where that comes from and just what you get inspired from.
Hi, thank you so much. It's an honor for me to be here, like in another state, or in another country, speaking about the things that I love, that it's paint and colors. I get inspired on my childhood. It's all the colors when I was younger, my mom paint all my room with rainbows, clouds. I was like super fan of Care Bears and My Little Pony, yeah, Rainbow Bright. So when I start painting toys, I do it because I need like a break from my reality. I live in the city. It's in Mexico City. It's super noisy, super gray sometimes. It's difficult, almost like being an adult and all that stuff. So I decided to start painting things that make me feel like in my. You say like it's your comfort place, no? Something like that. Yeah. So. I also, I'm a digital designer, and I have to write a thesis for that. And I did it about art toys and character development. And I have to touch the subject of color theory. There, I read that these kind of colors make a reaction in your brain causing oxytocin, you know?
Yes.
When you see a baby and you say, oh, or kawaii, or that kind of thing. So I really want to do it, and when I saw people see my toys and have that reaction, like I get like super like happy, and I think that's the thing that why I do this. Like, yeah. Sorry guys, my English is not the best, but I'm trying.
Hey, she did perfect, right guys?
Yeah.
Also, a lot of that thesis stuff was over my head, and so that's very impressive that you're at that level with your research and your concept of what you do. So that's pretty amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, Mr. OCTEEL. Some more Jenny Cherry stuff there. There it is. Kaiju Cream. Matt, you have really rocked the world with this design. You've had some even licensed Godzilla designs. What's it been like? I mean, and you've done this all in what seems like the last year and a half. What's the ride been like? Where's your inspiration coming from? Talk to us about your tattooing.
This could be a very complex answer, but I'll try to navigate it as best I can. I want to make the things that I want to see that don't exist. And I'm a tattoo artist. I've been tattooing for 20 years. So I play around a lot with color theory and design constantly in my life. And I've been collecting toys, obviously my entire life, but more so soft vinyl, maybe the last 5 years, pretty solid. And I got to a point where I had people coming to get tattoos from me, and I started doing tattoos of the things that I love, right? There wasn't a lot of people doing kaiju tattoos or Godzilla tattoos, so I started designing my own flash of things that didn't exist. I want to see 30 Godzilla tattoos, not just one, or not one that's realistic. So I started designing the things that I wanted to see, and other people became attracted to it. And when I made my first toy, Kaiju Cream, obviously I didn't have the license, but it came out of a tattoo design and tattoo flash that I created in this kind of fury of creating all these designs. And creating that toy led me to getting a license toy. And you know, they were really attracted to the idea of not putting out the exact same Godzilla that you've seen 300 times, and really taking my own personal art and putting that into the toy itself. And I just want to continue to keep doing that. You know, I love this iteration of Godzilla, or I love that iteration of Hedorah, but I don't want to see the same thing done 30 different times. I want to see it in a new light, and I want to create things that just don't even exist. And that's kind of where it comes from, you know.
It's awesome. I'm gonna walk around now. As I get down here, Chance, I know you're a collector of a lot of different things. You've done a lot of different things in your life, from making knives to collecting arrowheads to antique stores and all that. How much does that inspire you? How much of that do you draw on when you're making your figures?
I'd say history in general inspires me in a lot of ways. You know, you read stories. History, if you really read it and think about it, it's almost like another world, like you're on another planet. It's so, whether it's the Roman Empire or the Egyptians or the cowboys and Indians, whatever it is, it's almost like another planet now to us, the way we live now. You know, we're sitting there on the phone, and it's like, 120 years ago, people were trying to survive out in the Rockies or something, you know. So it's a lot to do with history. And then, of course, all the different careers I've had, and maybe not even the career, but the people you meet. You know, you meet so many characters along the way, and they stick with you. And so when you're developing ideas, and like I say, I'm fortunate. I don't have to sit there and try. They say, oh, I got writer's block. Sometimes I wish I could cut it off so I could be normal a little bit. But it's just like these ideas are just constantly flowing in my head. And when I start going, oh, I like that character, and I like the way he does this or this, and then it starts to remind me of maybe somebody I knew in my life through all the crazy things, you know, I've done. And I'm like, oh, yeah, so it all morphs together, you know. And then you take that with all the TV and movies and comic books I grew up reading, and boy, it really messes your brain up to where, you know, it's just a stew up there, and I'm just ladling out some of the stew, you know, and like I say, I don't have to try. It just pops out of my head, so it helps. Everything helps, you know. I'll do some character of you one day. Trust me.
Anybody else have a question for anyone on the?
Hey there, I was just kind of curious for, you know, just everyone, this is kind of just a broad question. How would you maybe describe for someone who wants to get into making toys, how would you describe maybe a way of getting into that?
So, you wanna get into making toys?
Just a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say go for it. It's the best. I think it's the greatest artistic expression. It's it's playable. It's interactive. It's interactive art, right? That gives you nostalgia. So do it. Go for it. But as far as like how to do it, man, that's a long answer. That's a long answer. You gotta just. I would say start by just sculpting some little guys, and make some little silicone molds of them, cast them in resin, paint them up, take them to little toy conventions and meet people and give your toys to give your toys away, sell your toys, just it's remember when you're making toys, it's not about the money. It's about being in the moment and enjoying the process of making toys. You're a Geppetto. You're like Santa Claus. You're making toys. It's fun. You gotta stay in that mindset. Don't think ahead. Don't think about how am I gonna be seen? What am I gonna be? Am I ever gonna make it? You're making it as long as you're making it. You know what I mean? As long as you're making the thing. So that's the advice I have. I don't know what you guys want to say.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And it's not about the money, but it can be expensive, right?
Yeah, it can. Yeah, especially if you get into making soft vinyl toys. Get into that, it can get expensive. But if you watch people like I don't know if you've ever heard of the Craftsman on YouTube. He's just released a whole series of videos on how to make your own DIY soft vinyl stuff at home, and you can do it for pretty affordable, way more affordable and way easier than it used to be. It's a lot. It's getting a lot easier now. There's Pastels suppliers in the States now. I sell the paint, so we got paint in the U.S. now. 10 years ago, this was unheard of. Now you can make your own soft vinyl toys. It just takes dedication. There's a lot of parts of the process. It takes a lot of time, and it does add up financially a little bit.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is for OCTEEL. So the moment I saw the Hydra up there and then the ice cream sundae, I immediately got that vibe from Devil's Tower and the mashed potatoes, from the movie. And it's like, yeah, there we go. So what was the inspiration for that? I mean, was that literally you were at the table, you said, wow, this would look great as a sundae? Or, is that how the inspiration came? You get it from food or different things? Or, and that's really the broader question. So, what is your inspiration? Do you look at something that's sort of normal and then, oh man, this would look cool as a monster, or a toy, or the way you do it?
Sometimes when I'm working on design, and this design started out as a tattoo design before a toy design, especially with monsters or kaiju, I try to create imaginary scenarios. What's something that would happen in real life that's outside of the monster just attacking a city or getting in a fight? And so I was sitting around thinking about this, and a whole series of flash from this time came out of this thought process. But I was like, what if Hedorah was just like attacking a city in the middle of the day, and a sludgy chunk fell off? And in the movie, he goes through all these stages where it's like, it breaks down into tadpoles, and it breaks down into a swimming form, and then it goes into a flying form. So what if a chunk just landed in somebody's ice cream? Like, well, what happened? Would it turn into him? I don't know if it would turn into him. And the idea of it was just so funny and just seemed so natural, right? Because it's dripping and it's melting and it's organic, and the movie itself, there's a lot of psychedelic colors, and it comes from the early 70s, that whole era. It just made sense to me, and that's where it came from. I mean, it just made sense to me, so that's what inspired it.
I saw this guy first, and I'll come over here.
What made you guys fall in love with kaiju?
Could you repeat that? We couldn't hear it.
What made you guys fall in love with kaiju?
Look at her age.
You want to answer?
Okay. Yeah. For me, I'm not an expert, obviously. I don't grow up with kaijus in my life, but now, and when I was like a teenager, I always look for like the misfits, and myself was really a misfit. Like being all pink and a little bit extra, it was not easy in school. But I saw these underground people that like B movies and weird stuff, and I really like it and feel part of it because we are all like kind of creepy, but we like each other, you know? We respect each other. So yeah, I think for me it's the weirdness. Yeah.
That's great. That's a great answer.
I mean,
Anybody else wanna
you know, I'm 51. I grew up with Saturday afternoon, you know, shock theater with Godzilla or any of the ones. I mean, Gorgo, you name it. We watched all that stuff. I know you did. I know y'all did. You know, and you know, it was cool, man. I mean, that's you know, it's like being brainwashed. You know, you just love it. It just, you know, I don't know. And then when you get older, you realize that there's of course, I may have been into kaiju longer than a lot of these people because I like never got out of it. And you know, I was buying stuff from Japan in the late '80s. So I was collecting all the way back then, and then you know, and I guess for me, I just collected and collected and collected and collected, and then. You know, I don't know. I guess I started making stuff around 2008. So, and then, you know, did my own thing with it. But I still love it. I still got to have it, you know.
Yeah, same. You know, I mean, I remember as a kid going over to my grandpa's house next door, and I'll never forget the first time I saw King Kong. You know, me and my brother, we'd go upstairs, and while they sat down and watched, you know, Wheel of Fortune or whatever, you know, we'd go upstairs and we'd put on the TV, and I remember just whatever was on, you know, we'd flip around whatever we could find because they had cable, you know, and we didn't. And man, King Kong, that original King Kong when I was a kid, just the stop motion and everything just blew me away. And then I remember the first time I saw Godzilla, you know, the same thing happened. I just was just like, oh, this is amazing, you know. And then I remember first when I was a kid, my parents for Christmas one year got me the Imperial Godzilla. I don't know if you guys remember the old school. That was like one of my first toys. I just loved that. I loved that toy. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's just nostalgia. It just brings me back to being a kid and loving the monsters. And you never grow out of it because it's just like you said, you know, and like you said, you know, it's just it's weird. You know, we're all weirdos here. You know, we're all creeps, right? Like monsters. We root for the monsters. You know. And you can't help but love those monsters, and once you fall in love with monsters, you can't shake that. You've got that in you, you know. You don't need to clap for that.
This is a question for all of you. What is your favorite creation, and what does it mean to you?
Sorry, we're having a hard time because the speakers are turned away from us. So when you guys ask, you might have to talk a little bit louder.
What is your favorite creations for all of you, and what do they mean to you?
What is my favorite creation? What does it mean to me? Is that what you asked? I mean, for me, my favorite creation is probably the Hedora banana split. And it means a lot to me because I was really hesitant, even though I was a collector, I was really hesitant to even step foot into this world. And when I made it, I didn't plan on doing conventions, and I didn't plan on making more than for just clients at my tattoo shop. And I had never used an airbrush before, even though I was a seasoned artist. And there was 6 months where I just paused the entire process, and I was really doubting myself and whether I should even be doing it. And I was kind of having imposter syndrome. And I have 2 young daughters. And I just asked them what they thought one day. And they were like, yeah, you have to make that one, you know. And that meant everything to me, you know, to have my own children. Because, you know, kids don't lie to you. They would have told me if it sucked, trust me. Like, they would have been like, no, not that one, you know. And they were just excited about it. So I was inspired by them. And I wanted them to see their dad not only start that process, but be able to see it through, right? Like, I wanted to inspire my own children with the process. Just like, look, I did this drawing, and look, now it's a sculpt, and look, now it's a toy. And that was the only thing I was worried about. I wasn't worried about making money. I didn't want to do conventions. I don't like being around lots of people. But I have to be. Every time I see it, I think of them, and it means everything to me, yeah.
I'm not crying, it's just something in my eye. Anybody else want to answer that one? We've got a...
What's your favorite?
Man, that's a toughie. All my creations, and here's where everybody points their finger, and in their head they're going, that dude is nuts. I like know these characters. I talk to them. They live in my head, and I don't think of them as just toys or just characters. I mean, they're as real as y'all are to me in my head, and I love them. I love them all, even the bad ones that do terrible stuff. I love them, and so like choosing a favorite's super hard because like I say, they're so close to me. I have 4 grown kids, and you know, my kids just barely edge out my creations, you know. So you know, but if I had to say, like, okay, there's a character called Kutu, which a lot of people know. He's the guy that looks like a mummy with one big eye right there. So we were putting together our second wave of figures, and I really needed a chase figure. And it was really, there he is, there's Kutu right there. And it was one of those deals like the next day I had to have it made before we did all these waves of figures. And I said, let me think of something really evil, like a mummy, vampire, cyclops. And really that simple. And that's not the way I usually create. But I said, okay, now get serious. How could this thing be real? And all night long I stayed up making this thing. And actually, I stayed up for about 16 hours straight, drawing it many times and sculpting it and getting it completely done. And it was ready the next day to go into production. And when that wave of figures came out, we sold. And it's not about the money. It's not about the money. But when people back you up with what you think is great and they buy your stuff, it feels pretty friggin' good, you know. So we went live with that wave 2, and Kutu was at the helm of, you know, like this is a character you could possibly get because he was a chase figure. We sold almost $40,000 worth of toys in 2 minutes, and for somebody that has I'm just on Facebook. I wasn't even on Instagram then, and that was a big deal for us. And then Kutu became huge, and people were reselling them when they got them, you know, $1,500, $1,200, you know, $2,000 a figure. And I'm sitting there going, I got $50 for that, you know. But no, it made you feel real good. So yeah, I would still say, you know, Kutu, because what he did for for me, and it's not that I would quit, because if I was homeless and I was living under a bridge, I would have a bar of soap and I'd be carving figures. Trust me, I would be. But he really made it more comfortable. Let's put it that way.
That's awesome. Could someone give me a time check, please? Okay. Right.
What is the hardest thing you have ever made?
The most difficult thing that you've made? Or a difficult part of the process, even?
Let's see. You know, my Papa Squatch was very difficult. I remember that figure was, but at the same time, he's my favorite. So to answer both questions, but yeah, that one was the first one I did that had sleepy, blinky eyes, and coming up with the mechanics for that was very complicated, and trying to figure that out. And I mean, those Papa Squatches, like they're like 14 inches tall, 12 to 14 inches tall, and assembling like cutting and assembling and painting one of them takes so long. Like I remember one time when we did the premiere, I had to paint so many of them, like I gave myself tendonitis from it. Yeah, like it's never gone away since. Like I got chronic tendonitis from it. So yeah, but you know what, you having to kind of like work through that pain and stuff is a difficult part of toy making, because it'll happen to everybody who does it long enough, you know. But you just kind of have to, what's the word? Pace yourself when you can. But it's, you know, all of making toys can be difficult. It's very fun to do, but it is a very in-depth process.
It takes discipline.
It takes discipline.
That's something that I would, especially new guys that are wanting to come out there, new gals that are coming out and say, I want to be a toy maker. I say, start making and don't stop. Everybody quits, because you are going to run into unbelievable hurdles, and you will just think, why did I get into this? I hate this. You know, so you have to just fight through it. But
you got to really love it.
You got to love it. If you don't love it, you will quit. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi. Any of you guys could answer, but whenever you're making something and you don't like it, or there's just something about it that doesn't feel right, like how do you work through that? How do you push through those scenarios? Or how many times do you have to make something bad before you make something good? Or is there things that you put out that you never really like all the way, but people seem to like it? So that kind of stuff. In that vein, I don't know.
I mean, I think failures. Okay. Yeah, you go ahead.
For me, I really do it again and again until I think it's good. Like, I don't have too much time painting art toys. In Mexico, I started like in 2018, 2013. But I really like my piece, like the one that I'm working, look better than my last piece. So I have to push myself a lot, and I use this strategy to be better. And sometimes, and my husband can tell me, like, I paint like hours, and then I leave the room and I don't like anything. And I have to come back the next day and try to figure out what can I do. And I think the cool part of this is you can redo it again all the times that you want. So, and the thing that you have to do is, like, if you don't like it, don't put it out there, and you don't have to post everything that you do. Yes, that's all.
Yeah. That's your chance. How do you handle failure?
I don't fail.
There you go.
Yeah, no, just keep working on it. And then sometimes, I'll tell you what I do, a lot of times, I'll have, since I sculpt, I do a new toy a week, so that's a lot of sculpting. So when you have a figure and you sculpt it and you've got 8 hours or 10 hours in it, you're like, man, I don't want to lose that. God almighty, I don't want to lose that time. And you're just like, but I just don't like the way it looks. Set it to the side, start something else. I usually go into drawing or painting or something like that. And sometimes I come back to that figure and I go, you know, if I added a couple of horns or I, you know, made his nose different or redid his eyes, he might be really cool. And by God, it almost always works. You end up making something that you go like, I think that's my favorite thing I've done this year. You know, and I was about to just smash it, you know. So yeah, just stick with it. Again, discipline. Yeah. That's it. Be disciplined and just, you know, know it. Be confident, man. You know what you're doing and say, hey, I can do this. I can get through this deal. And that's just like life, you know. That's it.
Yeah, and also, you know, if you ever do make something, like if you're not making toys and you're doing some other kind of art form where it's like it is what it is and you can't add to it or something like that, you know, then I think that failures are a gift, personally. I think anytime you fail, that is an opportunity. And when you know you failed, when you can see it, and you can admit to yourself that you weren't quite there for it, that you didn't quite capture what you were trying to capture, just look at it and reflect on why that is. And like really dig deep. Why did it fail for you? You know? And then just learn from that. And then just move on, and the next time it'll just be better, you know? Any artist that has never failed, I feel sorry for, because you've got to do that to really grow, you know? You've got to try things that maybe, like I make a toy and it doesn't sell well, you know? It's a flop, you know? Like I thank the universe for those opportunities, because those are the times where I get a fire under my pants to make sure that the next one really does hit, you know? It's just like you get something from everything, you know? Sometimes the failures are better.
You don't think like I'm the only person with taste and none of them get it?
Well, that's I don't judge a flop. Like I don't judge the soul of a toy whether it's a flop or not. You know, like for instance, like, you know, I was talking about Papa Squatch being my favorite toy, you know? He's not my most popular toy. He's not my if I want to talk about my most popular toy, you know, I've got some of my more popular toys, and I love them too, but, you know, when you've got like a connection to something, you know, it doesn't, if you really put yourself into something, and you didn't just do it to make money, you know, whether it sells or not, it doesn't really matter. You're just like, you're still proud of you know, it's like if you have a kid, and the kid, you know, doesn't make straight A's, you still love your kid, you know? You better.
I wasn't loved.
So I was just curious if anybody on the panel had like a dream project or something that they're looking to try to make that they haven't quite been able to complete yet?
I didn't even hear it.
Dream project.
You got a toy you're trying to make, you haven't made good?
Yeah. I want to make everything. I do want to make a licensed Hedora toy. Like, that's one of my favorite things to draw, one of my favorite things to paint, one of my favorite characters of all time, one of my favorite movies of all time. So that was partially why it was the first thing I made, because I was like, nobody's ever going to hire me to do a licensed toy ever. So if I'm going to only do one toy, I'm going to do the one that I feel connected to and I love, and you know, and so I made it. And that gave me the opportunity to do a licensed toy. And I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. So I might have other goals, but that's on my checklist. Okay, we did it, now let's do it let's make it official. Let's do it for real, you know?
You will. You'll make it.
I think rest a little bit. I would like to do that. No, that's a joke. I don't know. I'm really just blowing up to be here. Like, I think I'm living my dream right now. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, if we're going to talk about toys that we hope to make one day, I know you guys are all kaiju fans, so let's talk about kaiju that everybody knows. I've always wanted to make a licensed Garamon toy. I don't know if we got any Garamon fans in here. Yeah. Yeah. Or Pigmon, you know, Pigmon's cool too. I like Pigmon, you know. Yeah, I just love Garamon's. He's just Mr. Grumpy. I love him.
Thousands and thousands of toys still to make, you know, yeah. But yeah, I was gonna make a Garamon for this show. Now the whole license thing, a lot of people get hung up on that. I never let that bother me. I just make it anyway. Those are billion-dollar companies, and my little old sales aren't gonna hurt them, not one bit. And I kind of like the whole outlaw thing of bootleg stuff anyway. So, I don't. License means nothing to me. Now I will say, if somebody's stealing from a small person, like stealing from me, that's wrong. You know, like we never would ever bootleg from a small company, and usually if I want to make something that, like, a guy has a comic book out or something like that, and I think that's so cool, and it's an indie comic, you can call them and they're like, oh dude, yeah, make it, yeah. Give me a few, you know, make it. And that's the way it always works out. But yeah, as far as dealing with these big companies and everything, you know, I just do it.
All right, our last question from the audience here.
Hi, this goes to each of you. What is your preferred sculpting media, whether that be physical or digital, and what do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of it?
I'll tell you, I'm all about hands-on. I like to get my hands dirty, so I sculpt with clay. And I think it's important to, whatever clay you sculpt with, I think it's important to sculpt with clay. I know there's a lot of digital sculptors out there right now, and I know that's cool. You know, there's a time and a place for it. But I do think that if you don't understand how to create it in front of you and touch it and feel it and see it happen, you know, there's a part of you that isn't translating into it. And with practice, you know, I've seen some really good digital sculptors. But, you know, like with hand sculpting, you know, you can't do the mirror sculpt thing, you know? You can't just copy one side to the other. You've got to do the whole thing. And when you do that, the more time you put into that, the more attention you're putting into that, the more of yourself is getting into it, and the more of your style, you know, and the more of it's all just, and the more time you have with it. You know, everyone talks about, well, it's so much faster. It's like, why do you want to do it so fast? Why do you want to rush through something that brings you joy so fast? Why don't you want to spend time with it? What is that? Ask yourself, why? You know? I don't know, that's just me. And I like monster clay. Monster clay is great. And then I like to take a mold of that and then cast it in a homemade toy wax that I do. It's like a different combination of waxes. And then I kind of finesse everything in the wax stage so that I can send off a wax prototype, because that's what they need to make the metal molds. You got to have wax. At some point, you got to start working on wax.
I'm a super sculpey. That's almost, you know, I mean, I can sculpt in anything. I have my own, for those giant things I make, I have my own paper clay I build, you know, I make. But yeah, I do everything in tin foil, and then super sculpey on top of the tin foil. And I used to be a nut about having it wet the entire time, but now I will do like the head and then the pants and then the body or whatever I'm doing, or the tails or whatever, and break it up into sections and harden it in sections. But yeah, I just use Super Sculpey, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different figures in Super Sculpey, and it works great. And I believe in only, I'm a handmade only person. If it's not by your fingers, and I use an old nut pick, came from my grandparents' house, and my fingers, and that's it. So. That's me though. Everybody does their own thing.
Yeah, everybody does their own thing. Whatever brings you joy, that's what you got to do. You got to work with whatever brings you joy, truly.
Hello, can you hear me? I don't sculpt my own stuff. I'll do prototypes with monster clay and tin foil. I'll create mock-ups for size, but I hire sculptors to do my sculpts, and when I work with companies, they have their own sculptors. I do all the drawings in the round, I do all the design work, I do all the paint work, I do all the master factory paints, but it's one of those things where I've yet to produce my own toy from my own sculpt, and so I have a handful of those things in the works, but for me that is the slowest process. I design so fast, and I can paint and draw so fast that I can have everything done in a matter of 2 or 3 days. Full header cards, everything. So if I'm working with a company and they're dealing with time frames, me sculpting for them is just not practical. So that's usually the one part of my process that I outsource or give that to somebody else.
Yeah.
And for me, I did like my first toy, I did sculpted, that is this one. It's like super symmetrical. I did it on Maya, and that's it. Like my newest toy, I hired somebody. I also did the part of the sketch and everything. But with my first one, actually I do it like the first piece, and then I did the molds. I lose my fingertips, sanding a lot of pieces, because that was my first toy. Like, I started doing resins and do it by myself. So it was like super hard, and when you figure out that it's too much, you can hire somebody. So yeah, for the sculpting, I do it with another friend that sculpts. Yeah.
Thank you all for being here and for doing this. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming to the third Kaiju Go, and we hope to continue to do this. Any last words before we close it down and go to the next event? Any words of inspiration? Motivation? Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, sorry. No, follow your dreams.
Wonder Goblin, James Sizemore, Chance Priest, Jenny Cherry, OCTEEL. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.